All right, AP1 students, in this video we're going to finish up talking about epidermal variations. So we just had a couple of more objectives to talk about. So they were the condition called albinism and then the function of friction ridges. So we're going to finish up talking about those two. In the first one, albinism, we talk about that when we talk about melanin pigment and how it influences skin color. So, and the reason we talk about albinism is because it is due to the absence of melanin. So a person that has albinism, they inherited a gene from their parents that is not correct. It's a gene that's supposed to code and produce a particular enzyme, and so, but it's wrong, the gene is wrong, so then it produces an enzyme, but the enzyme is not the right shape, and so it's not functional, and the melanocytes really need that enzyme in order to make the pigment melanin. So since the enzyme's wrong and it's not able to function like it's supposed to make melanin, then it doesn't make melanin. So these people they have all their melanocytes, same number as we do. It's just that their melanocytes can't make the melanin pigment. So what you'll notice is they might have white hair because melanin is the pigment that colors our hair. They might have pale skin because melanin, of course, contributes to skin color. And then they might have pink irises, and that's only because the melanin, is responsible for the color of our iris, whether it's blue or brown or hazel. But if there's no melanin in there, so we don't get brown or blue or hazel, then all you can really see is the blood vessels behind the iris, and that's what makes it look pink colored. And so they will have like a pink color. So that is a disorder caused by a gene problem. So we'll talk about gene mutations, but what happens is the gene can't make the proper enzyme because it's got the wrong code. So its little bases that make up the DNA they're not the right ones. So then the enzyme's made and it's not the right shape, and then it can't function to make the melanin. So that's albinism. So you should be familiar with the characteristics of that disorder. And then the last skin variation, epidermal variation, is the friction ridges. There's others too. I just kind of picked out ones to kind of focus on. And so you guys all know what friction ridges are, but you maybe never heard them called friction ridges. Most of the time we always call them fingerprints. But you can find them on the soles of your feet and toes as well, but those we don't usually use for identification most of the time. We usually use the fingerprints. So that's more commonly what we know about when we all know about friction ridges, but we always refer to them as fingerprints, not friction ridges. So that is a epidermal variation, and it depends on the person. So everybody has their own unique friction ridges. And we use the friction ridges for identification. So that whenever we realized that everybody's friction ridges were unique to them, then we started using them to identify people. So it was something that was very specific, so we could identify people. But really the reason we have the friction ridges is to help increase friction, so we're able to pick things up and not drop them as easily, or we are able to walk barefoot and not slip and slide all over the place. So they provide a function of increasing the friction that we have with things we want to pick up or things we want to walk on. So there's actually a purpose for those, why they were there to begin with. But again, we as a society figured out that they're unique to each person, so we could use them also for identification purposes too. So that is our last epidermal variation that we'll talk about. So, all right. So in the next video, we are going to dive a little bit deeper into the dermis and hypodermis, some of the characteristics of them, and then we'll start talking about the functions of the skin, specific functions of certain structures of the skin, and then we'll also talk about how the skin heals and some disorders of the skin too. So I will see you in the next video.